Hey there, mates. Are you ready to dive into the fascinating world of research design in educational research? It plays a crucial role across all types of studies. First up, we have quantitative research, which focuses on numbers and patterns. This approach helps us analyze data and uncover trends. On the other hand, qualitative research delves into the rich stories and experiences of individuals, providing valuable insights that numbers alone cannot capture. And let's not forget mixed methods. This approach brilliantly combines both quantitative and qualitative techniques, giving us a more comprehensive understanding of the research topic. Imagine you're starting a research journey and you say, "Hey, I'm doing a quantitative study." The next question you might get is, "Cool, but what kind of quantitative research are you doing?" This is where it gets exciting. Are you conducting an experimental study, like a true experiment or a quasi-experiment? Or perhaps it's survey research, which could be cross-sectional or longitudinal. Maybe you're exploring correlations between variables. Each of these designs serves a unique purpose and helps you gather the insights you need. According to Creswell's book on educational research, when discussing quantitative designs, we often refer to either intervention or non-intervention studies. The first type of quantitative design is intervention design, involving manipulating variables to examine the effects of a treatment or intervention. Just remember, intervention designs involve manipulating variables. Here is an example. Experimental design can be divided into two main types. First is true experimental design. In this approach, researchers randomly assign participants to groups, like an experimental group and a control group. This design allows for a high degree of control over outside factors, enabling researchers to establish causal relationships. For example, researchers want to test a new educational program by randomly assigning classrooms to either use AI-generated personalized learning plans or stick with the standard curriculum. Just keep in mind that in a true experiment, participants are randomly placed into either the experimental group, which gets the AI program, or the control group, which continues with the traditional approach. To achieve this random assignment, the researchers might use a random number generator or draw names from a hat to fairly select which classrooms will receive the AI intervention. The independent variable here is the type of learning plan, and the dependent variable is how well students perform, measured through assessments and grades. By manipulating the learning plans this way, researchers can compare the academic results and reduce any selection bias, giving them a better idea of how AI can benefit education. The second type of intervention design or experimental design is quasi-experimental design. Quasi-experimental designs also involve interventions but lack random assignment. They might use pre-existing groups or non-random methods of selection. While they can still yield valuable insights, they may be more vulnerable to confounding variables. Example: comparing the academic outcomes of students in schools that have adopted a new teaching strategy to those that haven't, without randomly assigning students to groups. The second type of quantitative design is non-intervention designs, which do not manipulate variables, but instead focus on observing and measuring relationships between existing variables. This category includes correlational design. This type of research examines relationships between two or more variables without changing them, aiming to identify whether changes in one variable are associated with changes in another. For example, investigating the relationship between time spent studying and academic grades to see how these factors connect. Next is survey design. Survey research collects data from a group of individuals to gather information on their opinions, behaviors, or characteristics. This can be done through cross-sectional or longitudinal approaches. First type of survey design is cross-sectional surveys. These surveys collect data at a single point in time, giving a snapshot of the variables of interest. For example, assessing student attitudes toward online learning during a specific semester. The second type of survey design is longitudinal surveys. These collect data from the same participants over an extended period, allowing researchers to observe changes over time. For example, surveying the same group of students annually to track their academic performance and engagement throughout their college years. Now let's switch gears to qualitative research. It's just as important to be specific about your design here. Are you conducting a case study, exploring experiences through phenomenology, or perhaps diving into ethnography? Ethnography can take on various forms, including traditional ethnography, digital ethnography, or even autoethnography. Each design provides a unique lens to explore your topic. For visual learners, check out Figure 1.4 in Creswell's book. It's a fantastic snapshot that outlines various designs in both quantitative and qualitative research. For a closer look, qualitative research designs typically include 5 types. First is a case study. This involves an in-depth examination of a specific individual, group, organization, or event within its real-life context to gain detailed insights. For example, investigating how a school implemented a new teaching strategy and its effects on student engagement and learning outcomes. Second is ethnography. Ethnography studies people and cultures in their natural environments, focusing on their behaviors, beliefs, and interactions to provide a holistic understanding. For example, observing and documenting the daily practices of a community of educators to understand how cultural norms shape their teaching methods. Third is phenomenology. This design explores lived experiences and the meanings individuals ascribe to those experiences, aiming to capture the essence of specific phenomena from participants' perspectives. For example, the experience of teachers during remote learning. This study investigates how teachers experienced the transition to remote learning during the COVID-19 crisis. Through in-depth interviews, researchers explore themes such as feelings of isolation, the challenges of engaging students virtually, and the emotional toll of adapting to new technology. The findings can inform professional development and support strategies for teachers in similar situations. Fourth is grounded theory. This design involves developing a theory based on data collected from participants through an iterative process of data collection and analysis. For example, investigating the coping strategies of first-generation college students and developing a theory explaining their adaptation and persistence. Fifth is narrative research. This design focuses on individual stories and how they construct meaning through those narratives, often collecting stories through interviews or personal writings. For example, analyzing retiree narratives to understand how their career experiences shape their identities and views on aging. Each of these designs offers a distinct approach to understanding complex issues and capturing the rich, nuanced experiences of individuals. By choosing the right design for your research, you can explore different dimensions of your topic and uncover insights that numerical data alone might miss. So, whether you're diving into quantitative methods or exploring qualitative approaches, keep in mind that choosing the right design is super important. It really affects how you collect and make sense of your data, which in turn shapes the impact of your research results. Furthermore, when your research calls for mixed methods, you'll consider designs like convergent parallel, explanatory sequential, or exploratory sequential design, each offering a unique way to blend quantitative and qualitative data to tell a more complete story. Well, let's break down the 3 mixed method designs: convergent parallel, explanatory sequential, and exploratory sequential. Each design has its own strengths and is suited for different research needs. First is convergent parallel design. This design involves collecting both quantitative and qualitative data simultaneously, but analyzing them separately. The idea is to compare and contrast the results to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the research question. For example, if you're studying the impact of a new teaching method, you might conduct a survey to gather numerical data on student performance, which is quantitative, while also holding interviews with students to capture their personal experiences and feelings about the new method, which is qualitative. After analyzing both datasets, you would bring them together to see if the qualitative insights help explain the quantitative results or vice versa. In convergent mixed methods research, you analyze qualitative and quantitative data separately, but at the same time. This means that you collect both types of data concurrently, allowing you to explore different aspects of the same research question. Once you have your findings from both analyses, you can then bring them together to compare and contrast the results. This approach helps you see how the numerical data relates to the qualitative insights, providing a more comprehensive understanding of your research topic. Essentially, it's like having two lenses to examine the same issue, numbers and narratives, so you can gather richer, more detailed insights. The second type of mixed method design is explanatory sequential design. In this approach, you start with quantitative data collection and analysis to get an overview or general understanding of the research problem. Once that is completed, you follow up with qualitative data collection to help explain or provide deeper insights into the quantitative findings. For instance, if you find through a survey that students have low satisfaction levels with online learning, you could then conduct focus groups or interviews to explore why that is, allowing you to gather rich descriptive data that clarifies the numbers and provides context for your findings. In explanatory sequential design, you start with collecting and analyzing quantitative data first. This initial phase provides you with numerical results that give a broad overview of your research question. After you have those quantitative findings, you then move on to qualitative data collection. This next step is designed to explore and provide deeper context to the initial quantitative results. The qualitative data, which can include interviews, focus groups, or open-ended survey responses, helps to explain or elaborate on the patterns you've discovered in the quantitative phase. So, the sequence is indeed quantitative first, followed by qualitative second. This approach allows you to create a richer, more comprehensive understanding of your research topic. It's quite common in research publications for researchers to begin with experimental research that focuses on quantitative data. They often analyze results like student exam scores and achievement metrics to draw initial conclusions. Then, to add depth and context to those findings, they'll conduct qualitative data collection, often through interviews. In these interviews, they might ask students about their experiences during the exams or tests, exploring their feelings, challenges, and strategies. This combination enriches the analysis, as the qualitative data helps to explain why students performed in a certain way and provides insights that numbers alone cannot offer. It's a great way to ensure that the research not only presents data, but also captures the human experience behind those results. This approach enhances understanding and adds credibility to their findings. The third one is exploratory sequential design. This design flips the explanatory sequential approach. You begin by collecting qualitative data to explore a phenomenon and generate insights, and then you use those insights to inform the development of a quantitative instrument. For example, if you're researching a new educational program, you might start with interviews to gather rich qualitative insights from programming participants about their experiences. Based on what you learn, you could then create a survey to measure specific aspects of those experiences across a larger group. This allows the qualitative findings to drive the quantitative analysis, giving you a more structured way to test ideas that emerge during the exploratory phase. Here is another example from my publication titled The Evaluation of Gamification Implementation for Adult Learners, a Scale Development Study Based on Andragogical Principles. I utilize scale development analysis to evaluate the effectiveness of gamification based on Knowles' andragogical principles in facilitating online learning for adult students. An exploratory sequential mixed method research design was employed, incorporating interviews and field notes to gather qualitative data for scale construction. In this study, qualitative data collection was conducted first through interviews, allowing me to gather initial insights that were then analyzed using thematic analysis. This rich qualitative information from participants served as a reference for constructing the instrument or scale used in the quantitative portion of the study. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this overview of different research designs for quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods in educational research useful.